The time had now arrived for the lid of restraint to be removed completely from the emerging Catholic woman system at one of those milestones that mark the course of history. The 38-year-old Constantine determined that he should be not only Emperor of Gaul, but of the whole Roman world, and that he would solicit the support of the Christians through the granting of his imperial approval, though it has been estimated that they constituted only about 1/5 of the total population at the time. The strength of this movement, stimulated by the recent psychological victory over their persecutors, provided a unifying factor, at least equal in power, to the debauched and confused pagans. With the legions of Gaul at his back, and, as legend has it, a standard bearing a cipher for Christ at the head, he marched against the more numerous forces of Maxentius in Italy. The latter, who staked his fortunes on the black magic of the pagan Roman gods, was overcome by a series of defeats, and finished his career in 312 AD, drowned in the river Tiber of his own capital. Although Constantine soon after, in the Edict of Milan, issued conjointly with Licinius, proclaimed unlimited toleration and liberty for Christianity, he stopped far short of adopting it personally, or of outlawing pagan worship. In fact, he executed the family of Maxentius, and continued certain pagan practices, attending the sacred games, restoring pagan temples, and accepting the pagan priestly title of Pontifex Maximus. The first day of the week, Sunday, was sanctified, not as a Christian institution, but in honor of the sun which he venerated. His coins bore on one side his emblem, and on the other, a symbol of sun worship. Despite all this, Constantine's involvement in the church continued to escalate. He patronized the building of churches, accepted bishops as regular court attendants, gave legal recognition to the clerical orders, and made the internal dissensions of Christianity a matter for his own jurisdiction. But until 323 AD, he was in control of only 2/3 of the empire. In that year, Licinius, by suppressing Christianity in his territory, invited an invasion by its imperial protector. The two sides represented the struggle between the ancient gods of Rome and the new divinity of the Christians. Milman writes, on both sides were again marshaled all the supernatural terrors which religious hope or superstitious awe could summon. Diviners, soothsayers, and Egyptian magicians animated the troops of Licinius. The Christians in the army of Constantine attributed all his success to the prayers of the pious bishops who accompanied his army, and especially to the Holy Labarum, a standard bearing the insignia of Christ and the image of the emperor. Constantine's victory made him master of the world in which Christianity, or Catholicism rather, flourished. The Ephah woman system was being firmly established in what had been pagan territory, and with which there were many affinities. Corrupt Christianity rejoiced at its deliverance. Eusebius, Bishop of Caesarea, exalted as follows concerning the new order of things. No one of the bishops was absent from the imperial banquet, which was more admirably conducted than can possibly be described. The guards and soldiers, disposed in a circle, were stationed at the entrance of the palace with drawn swords. The men of God passed through the midst of them without fear, and went into the most private apartments of the royal edifice. Some of them were then admitted to the table of the emperor, and others took the places assigned them on either side. It was a lively image of the kingdom of Christ, and appeared more like a dream than a reality. But Eusebius, like the vast multitudes of compromising Christians, was utterly deluded. The very emperor in whom they delighted still honored the pagan deities, and was soon, because of jealousy, to arrange the murder of his own wife and his eldest son. A significant act of Constantine that was to pave the way for the full development of the man of sin, spoken of by Paul, was the construction of a new capital for the empire. Already Diocletian before him had shifted his palace to Nicomedia in the northwestern Asia Minor, close to the center of gravity of affairs. The importance of Rome and the Senate had, consequently, declined. Constantine, in a manner befitting an emperor of the greatest prestige, constructed a brand new capital on the site of the old city of Byzantium, calling it Constantinople. The establishment of this eastern capital by Constantine was a major factor in the consolidation of the empire in two halves, in accordance with the vision given to Nebuchadnezzar in Daniel chapter 2, where the fourth stage of the kingdom of men was symbolized by two iron legs. The shift of political power eastwards was to leave a power vacuum in the west, which would be exploited by ambitious bishops of Rome. Constantinople was modeled closely on the architecture of Rome, with markets, fountains, aqueducts, theaters and hippodromes, porticos and forums, all making it attractive to the Roman patriot. Although new pagan temples were absent, those of the sun, the moon, and of Aphrodite, inherited from Byzantium, were permitted to remain, and statues of the guardian deities of all the cities of Greece were brought in to adorn the city. In the ceremony marking the dedication of the city in 330 AD, Constantine held a statue of Fortune, the goddess of old Byzantium, and a favorite with the Italians. The majority of the Catholic Christians had no basis for complaint against the emperor's duplicity, since he was merely giving practical effect to policies of accommodation, long established in the corrupting church. They had compromised with Judaism and philosophy to avoid persecution and make their religion more respectable for the masses. He was being even-handed to establish and maintain peace in an empire that was heir to a wide range of established traditions. He took into account, no doubt, that most folk would, like himself, consider a scrupulous adherence to Christ's commandments a decided inconvenience, if not a disaster to their current way of life. Faithful obedience, that great virtue of Abraham, extolled in the scriptures, was a rare quality indeed. Probably from both political caution and superstitious dread, Constantine delayed the washing away of his sins in baptism until 337 AD, when he was on his deathbed, thereby indelibly stamping his life and conduct with the marks of hypocrisy and idolatry. Although whether Constantine the Great ever went so far as to issue prohibitions against pagan worship is a matter of dispute, there is no doubt that Christianity was blessed with his imperial favor. But in addition to the corruption of the gospel that had taken place, this new development introduced another change as well. The church was now subject to direct interference by the emperor in the administration of its affairs. With its independence forfeited, it was inevitable that differences would arise between the emperors, as ecclesiastical legislators, and the primary bishops of the church. But the unique position of the Bishop of Rome, in his relative isolation, in the original city of the Seven Hills, was to permit the growth of the most tyrannical despotism the world has ever seen: the papacy. Thank you for watching. Subscribe to get notifications of new videos. Like, share and comment below.